Hey, it's Kasim with your daily Google News, and I'm really excited today because I get to chat with a dude that's way far above my pay grade. And I only got him here, so it was just sheer guilt. It was like because we're in similar circles, and I had to shame him. But this is the world authority on YouTube. If you haven't seen his face, then you're under a rock. He I think is the foremost thought leader on not just YouTube but also omni-channel remarketing. Really sharp cat. Aleric Heck. Aleric, thanks for being here, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on here, Kasim. I'm excited to dive in.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I saw you speak first at War Room, and you kind of blew that room apart. Like you blew everybody's mind, and I didn't like you, to be honest with you. I don't think anybody should be allowed to be like as smart as you are. And like it just pissed me off and made me, man, I'm a jealous whatever type. So I was just like, this guy. But you brought me around just because you're just a good dude. We ended up, I don't know if you even remember this, but it was a big deal for me. We're hanging out on the terrace.
Yep.
And yeah, we're having like that horribly dry chicken. Yeah. And I don't know, man, just like your whole business model blew me away. So I'm gonna do my best to summarize what I remember. You started shooting YouTube videos when you were 12 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
What you're teaching people about technology, right?
Yeah. Teaching people best mobile apps, how to use their iPhone. We had a complete beginner's guide series to the iPhone. Those videos always got, millions of views teaching people. I've literally, it's crazy to think about, taught millions of people how to use their iPhone, many for the first time. So it's pretty cool.
That's too funny. And are you still doing that? Like, is that gone by the wayside? I know it's still on your LinkedIn. Do you still shoot those?
So I actually have a team that does it. So up until 2 years ago, it was still me shooting them, but I had a team kind of supporting it. But then I made that, obviously shift to hire some talent to do it. Actually, we had a couple different people come in, and so they're still going. The channel's got about 500,000 subscribers. It's AppFind, and it's still producing content.
So I'm going to link to that in the description of the video. And just out of curiosity, how hard is it to segue out as a subject matter expert? Like, did you notice a dip? Or are there tricks to doing that to where, losing Aleric's face, I bet you was probably difficult for people to contend with?
Yeah, it was definitely a little challenging. Now, the channel didn't have my face as much. It had more so my voice. And so the first person that I transitioned over to, I trained perfectly to match my voice, which is, and he's actually, Charlie, who's here, he's in our offices now out here in Austin, Texas, and he's worked with me on several other, managing AppFind and a couple other projects that we have too, and within AdOutreach. But basically it was saying, hey, how can you be as close to me as possible? And what's really interesting is that was great. Some people didn't know the difference, which was kind of funny, and other people did. Now, when we transitioned away, because now Charlie's working with me on some of the other projects, the main business, AdOutreach, and some e-com stuff that we're doing as well. Now that Charlie's focused on that, we had to transition to another person, and this person kind of had their own Andy, his own style, had been producing some videos in the past, and so now he is kind of the voice of AppFind. So it's actually really interesting. It's gone through some iterations, and obviously there's some people that are like, oh, we want Aleric back, which makes me feel good. And it's like, hey, check out some of the other content I'm producing over here if you want to, hear my voice. If you are you interested in YouTube and YouTube ads? But it's cool to keep it going because it provides so much value. It teaches people about their iPhone, the best apps. And I've told people this before, but my YouTube channel, I started it when I was 12. It paid for college. It funded my, AdOutreach business when I got into that, for the different coaches, consultants I hired to kick that off. And then, now it actually funds my entire lifestyle. So all of my living costs and living expenses are still paid for by that YouTube channel. And it's literally, Tim Ferriss talks about how he would have named it the 4-hour work week, the 1-hour work week, but nobody would have believed him. It really is a 1-hour work week to manage AppFind, and it pays all of my living expenses, which is pretty incredible. And then obviously AdOutreach is the main focus.
That's amazing. So when did you switch over to AdOutreach?
Yeah, so I switched over to AdOutreach back. I started experimenting with YouTube ads about 7 to 8 years ago now, for the YouTube channel. So I remember specifically, I had one particular mobile app. There was all these apps sponsoring the YouTube channel. We literally had hundreds. I signed hundreds of different app sponsorships, people coming in, promote their apps, promote their, tech products, things like that. And there was one social media networking app. We published the video on the YouTube channel. They, get however many views, they get thousands and thousands of downloads. Like, this is fantastic. One of the best conversion rates on a video, views to downloads. Can you post the video again? We want double the results. And you and I both know you can't just post the same video on the same channel the next day as an organic post and get double the results. But then I started thinking about it. I was running a little bit. So that wasn't the first YouTube ad, but it was the first YouTube ad for somebody else, right? So I was running a little bit of YouTube ads, testing some subscriber stuff, testing what does it look like to kind of promote some of my videos. And so I said, well, wait a second. What if I run this video as an ad and reach more people? And it took a little bit of convincing, but they gave a $500 budget for that. And just 1 week, we literally, because we hooked it up within Google, we got over 11,000 users for their app. It blew their minds, it was the best promotion that they had run, and they had hired like a performance marketing company. So we kept promoting that application. Then I get another call from that company that says, hey, we've got a big brand that's blitzing the market, and we want you to be the guy that runs ads for their integrated YouTube sponsorships. And so the second campaign I was running just, a couple months later, was now like a few $1,000s a day campaign. I was doing it for my college dorm room. And the funny thing is, you're onto something when they ask what your rates are. And I think of like a number that would just be like, to me at the time, like a ludicrous hourly rate. And they're like, sold, let's go. And I'm like, and now obviously looking back, I'm like, way under. I mean, obviously, that's what got me there. So not really, but like, it's like, wow, it's like the value that I was providing was so massive. But it was really great. They wanted me to drop out of college, fly out to Silicon Valley, like join their company. They're like, we'll give you, vesting equity. We'll, be a part of this 6-figure salary. I turned it down. So I said, I want to build this myself. I know I'm onto something. I want to be the king of my own castle, even if it starts out smaller. I know it can grow. And I originally created App Outreach. So originally, what is now today Ad Outreach was App Outreach. It was YouTube ads for mobile apps, and drove millions of downloads for a variety of different apps. I tapped my existing network. I went and reached out to the different sponsors that I had in the past, and worked with a variety of different campaigns. Then I discovered the world of funnels, of masterminds, and I hired my first consultant, joined my first mastermind, discovered this whole world. And still at the time, I was learning how to create a funnel and package to reach more people my YouTube ads for mobile apps offer. And I was doing that by running, and this program taught how to do a webinar funnel to a phone call, and then to enroll people on a phone call. And they taught Facebook ads for that. I said, I tested a little bit of their strategies, but then I just started running YouTube ads to my webinar, to the phone call, to get the sale. And it was just working way better. So all of a sudden, everybody starts asking, well, how are you doing that? How are you doing YouTube ads to a phone call funnel? Like, we've never heard of that before, because this is 5 years ago. And I say, well, I did some of the Facebook stuff that's recommended. I had run some Facebook ad campaigns too. And they work, but YouTube's working way better. It's like 4 times better. It's ridiculous.
I gotta pause you now, Aleric. Yeah. You got to give us the soundbite. Everybody's heard Aleric say one thing 100 billion times.
Oh, yes, exactly. YouTube ads beat Facebook ads every time.
That is awesome. So I wanted to ask you about this. This is a phenomenal segue. My experience with YouTube, and this is probably just because you're better at it than I am. My experience with YouTube is CPCs or CPMs, or what the cost of the traffic is higher than Facebook, sometimes much higher. The quality of the prospect is better. So if I'm looking at my CAC, YouTube does beat Facebook, but so many marketers are they're CPL obsessed. And like, oh, you get $3 CPLs, $5 CPLs. And I want to, first of all, drown them. I'm being hyperbolic, proverbially speaking, you know what I mean? Throw water in their face. But I have noticed that Facebook from a CPL perspective beats YouTube. Is that your experience too, or am I doing something wrong?
So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're just looking for leads, then, and one of the things we talk about, right, is at the end of the day, all that matters is your core metrics. So what are your core metrics? is usually it's going to be revenue. What's your cost to acquire? What's your cost to actually get people, to be that paying customer? What's your return on ad spend? What's your ROI? And then also, what is your cost for a qualified lead or a qualified application? This is why when I heard you speaking, I was like, you get it too, because you were talking about, phone calling up like leads, seeing which one's qualified, feeding the data back into Google. We do, similar thing. It's more automated, but basically what you want to do is you want to focus on qualified leads. We mark qualified leads within HubSpot. We have our clients do that, whether it's HubSpot or Segmetrics or Hires, whatever they use, make sure that they're sending back that data for qualified leads. And then we want to optimize our campaigns off of qualified leads or qualified phone applications, or obviously if it's e-com, that's easy. You're optimizing it based on what's the actual, cash that's coming in, revenue. And then also you can do LTV projections. Same thing with SaaS as well. You can do the projections based on where it should be. And that's a little easier because it's more, to compare, right? Okay, what's the actual ROAS? But when it comes to these application funnels or info, products, or if you're selling a front end product and you have a back end upsell, when it comes to all of these different things, what we have found is the quality is just far better on YouTube than Facebook. Now, earlier days, we were getting better CPLs on YouTube than Facebook. Now, the weird thing that's happening with Facebook is really embracing quantity over quality.
Dumpster fire, dude. Like post
Exactly.
iOS, it's nuts.
But the interesting thing is lead cost has been going up a lot on Facebook. And so depending on the industry, we do have people that see dramatically lower lead costs on YouTube than Facebook, but it's not everybody. And especially in kind of some of the info product space, sometimes you will see a higher lead cost on YouTube. But when you actually look at the quality, because one of the things that we talk about is laser targeting the perfect person, layering, and we talk about our 3D targeting, right? Which is layering that demographics, layering it with the videos that somebody's watching. So the specific type of content, and then layering that with specific audiences. Now, you and I both know we're going to get a little more advanced here because I think also your listeners are more advanced. Those aren't necessarily going to be your forever campaigns that you can infinitely scale, but it's going to give you your absolute best audiences, keywords, specific video topics. Placements kind of run out, and you probably know this as well, right? You have to find a ton of placements. You have to constantly refresh. It is a viable strategy, but it requires more maintenance and is harder to scale longer term. But what you want to do is at the beginning, when you're launching YouTube, when you're looking to have those bedrock campaigns that are bringing in very high quality leads at a low cost, hyper layering it with that 3D targeting strategy and layering in household income, which I'm sure you're using a lot, household income, which we found to work really well, especially on YouTube, layering in the demographics with the videos that people are watching, usually based around keywords. We launched our own keyword research tool. It's keywordsearch.com. It kind of like builds that out. But there's other like ones as well. And then combining that with audiences and the specific, intent audiences, which I'm sure very, very, very well. But then also, different affinities, URL affinities, combining it, combined audiences sometimes will work pretty well. And obviously some of the in-market audiences, if you can find one that's really suited to your niche, it'll work quite well. So layering the three of those together, pinpointing that person, scaling that campaign as much as possible. And then when you're looking to scale further, you can launch more of these campaigns where you're creating that Venn diagram. Or you can also start dissecting it and saying, okay, what piece of this is working really well? Maybe there's a custom intent audience or there's specific keyword set that's performing really well. And you can look to run that on its own and scale that much further.
That's brilliant. So you taught me a bunch of things. The first one is I don't use household income because when we tried to use it for the Google ecosystem outside of YouTube, it felt flawed. And I carried that prejudice over into YouTube. So I've never touched it. So that's a really good pro tip for me to know. And it speaks to the fact that I think we as marketers need to be really careful about the lessons that we learn, because the lesson that you learned yesterday isn't necessarily applicable today. So thank you for that. And I can also tell you the thing that we're doing with YouTube is, and I know you've seen this paradigm, we go very broad, optimize towards conversions, and then just let the algorithm sort of do its thing, which is scalable, but early stage campaigns fail often. And my criticism of your approach has been up until this point, well, yeah, of course it's going to work, but it's not going to scale. But what you're saying is, dude, I know it's not going to scale. It helps me figure out what works so I can scale. So you've got kind of this figure 8 thing going on, which I think is absolutely freaking brilliant. Yeah. So I've been having an argument with you that you didn't even know about, and you just won. And I just wanted you to know. So here's my follow-up question. And this is probably all your fault. I'm seeing a massive move towards YouTube. I'm seeing a bunch of Facebook advertisers dying on the vine. They're like, we don't know where to go. And they're trying other things, Snapchat, TikTok, but a lot of them are moving towards YouTube. Yeah. Is the golden age of YouTube dead? Like, we're going to get to commoditized traffic. It's, you know, it's heavily, it's saturated. People are used to it. And I know that you have a vested interest in saying no, but you got to convince me that the answer is no. Like, why aren't we going to find YouTube just be as commoditized and heavily saturated as Facebook was pre-iOS?
Yeah, this is a really, really great question. I love the hard questions too. So the golden age of YouTube is right now. It's not coming, but before in the past, I was saying it's coming, it's coming. Right now is that age. The people that solidify themselves right now are going to see the best returns and the best growth, because we're in the internet marketing kind of world. We're still at the early stage of kind of the mass adoption, right? That's going to be coming. So there are people that are literally just now, well, maybe not just now, but like a year or two ago, we're discovering Facebook right as that was, you know, seeing its decline. So we're still in that peak area. But what I will say is it will over time become more expensive as it gets more saturated. And that's why now is the best time to actually come in and stake your claim on YouTube, because if you get all of the testing done now and you actually get your audiences set up, you get your keywords set up, you get your conversion set up now, you're going to line yourself up for a lot more long-term success, right? Look at the people that are succeeding on Facebook right now are people that have defined campaigns, that have pixels that are really defined and dialed in. And now they can kind of float above some of those rising ad costs. Because I talk with people now, obviously Facebook is having a lot of problems with tracking, and that actually is killing some of those people that rested on that previously. So the last year has been a little crazy. There's been way more carnage over the last year because of that element of Facebook. So even the people that rested on that now can't do that anymore. So I will say that. But what I would say is I would put up, even with the same number of competition, YouTube way higher than Facebook, because it has all three elements. It has the intent, it has the people, right? So the targeting around the affinity, the interest, and also, of course, the demographics that you layer in. And you have those three elements combined with a video. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, a video is 1,000,000. And if you get the video dialed in,
did you just make that up?
Yep, that's what's going to work.
Yeah, that's the best quote in the world. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, a video is 1,000,000. I love it. And the point that you made about intent can't be overstated. Facebook is interrupter marketing. People who think that YouTube and Facebook are analogous, that's wrong. It's a flawed model. YouTube is intent-based. They're there to learn something. Facebook, you're stalking whatever, or trying to argue about politics. Like, you don't want to necessarily see information. YouTube, you're there to see information. So I think that's a huge, huge point. I know you've got a tight schedule, so I'm going to rapid fire you some questions. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Favorite traffic channels aside from YouTube?
Oh, aside from YouTube. So right now, what I would say is I do really like Google search, and I could probably learn a thing or two from you as well on that front. And then also for our e-commerce products, Google Shopping just, as I'm sure you know, does really well. I have like a, e-commerce, e-commerce product that's spinning up in the background. Cause I always love, obviously I've got the main focus, but I always love tinkering with a few different things. And so, it's really interesting because, a lot of people think about Facebook for e-commerce, but honestly, you have everything you need on Google. YouTube ads for e-commerce, if you get a really, really good ad dialed in, that's one of the things we help with, is going to, especially with some of the shopping features you can incorporate in, especially an intent-based higher margin item, works incredibly well on YouTube. In addition to that, shopping. So I just love the whole Google ecosystem. I think that they're the best. I think that there still is, some skin on the bone on Facebook, but there's just like a lot less that, and I think that LinkedIn, I'd really like the CPMs to come down or the algorithm to get better. We keep testing on LinkedIn on video. And I'm very optimistic about TikTok, but it's because of the traffic that's there, the CPMs, but it's still so early stage, and similar to Facebook, it's not intent based. So I just love Google because it's intent-based. That's the main platform that I've, poured a lot into. I know you can say the same thing, but, there is still other areas, there's still skin on the bone in other areas, but they've really been picked dry. So you have to be really good to maximize that. I believe that Google's the best platform to go all in on to start. And then you can, of course, branch off from there. Omnipresent retargeting, you want to be everywhere. But I still say YouTube ads beats the other platforms every time. That's what I'm going to say. YouTube ads. And then I do like the other elements within Google. There was also a period where discovery, the Google discovery ads were really doing well. Yeah. Right now, I think I'm seeing more increased competition there. But when they first launched, those were also really outperforming a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, well, and I'm interested to see how Performance Max influences the ecosystem in large, because it's stealing so many clicks from so many channels.
Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see? Like save my listeners some money. What are the things that they're going to go do wrong?
Yeah. So, well, one of them is, especially on YouTube, the household income. I mean, time and time again, we see that as a mistake that ends up happening is, if you're selling higher ticket, the household income does play a role. Is it perfect? No, not necessarily. It's never going to be perfect. But what I have seen from our YouTube ads is Google has a really good idea, especially who's top 50% and who's bottom 50% with all of their data they have. They have so much data. So maybe they miscalculate people from time to time. But in general, if you're targeting the top 50 and you're removing the bottom, and then we usually will do like top 30, you're going to reach people that have higher income bands, even if now it might be a little bit different on e-commerce, right? There's something like that. If you're running, more products, maybe there's less of a need to do that. But if you're running higher ticket, definitely do that higher bracket. The other thing is with VAC campaigns. So when you're running the YouTube ads, you have the new responsive format, relatively, within the last half year or whatever. So with that format, one of the big mistakes that people make is they run a YouTube ad with just a random title, version 1, hook 3, or whatever. That doesn't work anymore because now people can actually see the video. So what you need to do with in this new era of responsive YouTube ads is, in addition to optimizing for in-stream, you need to optimize for the responsive format. So you need to make sure that you have a title, that you have actually, pro tip is if you reference in the title, link below in little parentheses, that actually helps. You need to have the top link in the description be where you want people to go. Not just some blurb about it. You need to say like, click here and then the link. And then also turn off comments for not turn off, hold comments for approval, because then you can approve it if it is a good comment or whatever. Hold comments for approval and pin your own comment at the top with that link again. That will boost conversions by a minor percentage, but every little percent count, or not a whole percent, but like every little fraction of percent counts when you're running at scale. That's probably the big thing I would say. The biggest mistake I see now is more with the responsive campaigns, not optimizing the video. And I'm sure you've seen this too when you're on YouTube and you see a responsive ad and you click on it, and then the video, and then the video has like, hook 7 or like, version 83, no call to action. It just looks unprofessional. So you need to make sure that you're optimizing for that as well.
Where can people follow you?
Yeah, so you can follow me. So you can go find me on YouTube. So you can look up my channel, Aleric Heck. I'm posting videos every week. You can, of course, also add me on Facebook, Aleric Heck, Instagram at Aleric Heck, and then also you can go to AdOutreach, ADOUTREACH.com, and that's where I have all of the different trainings, webinars listed there as well.
I'll get links to all that in the show notes. Aleric's got some of the best training literally in the world authority in YouTube. Also, I just call you a global authority in digital marketing. Super appreciate you jumping on, man. This has been awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kasim. Appreciate it.
You're the man. And I shoot a video every day. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. That lets YouTube know we actually know what we're doing. We shoot a video every single day. So if you want to be notified, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any input, don't hesitate to hit us up in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We get very little human interaction. Thanks for supporting our channel, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.